Hello. I sat exactly where I am now, in an office, listening to stories. Stories of frustration, fear, and confusion, and most of them revolved around a small device, the glucose meter, a device that for many has become a ruthless judge of their daily efforts. And today I want to ask a question that may shock you. What if I told you that the vitamin you religiously take every morning, believing it to be a pillar of your health, could be the hidden cause behind those inexplicably high numbers on your meter? In this video, I'll show you how two of the most common vitamins found in almost every home could be secretly disrupting your glucose levels. Now, stop for a moment and think about what you're feeling. That sinking feeling in your stomach when you prick your finger, wait for what seems like an eternity, and see a number on the screen that makes no sense. You ate well, you took your medication, you might even have gone for a walk, and yet the number is there, staring you in the face. 180, 220, and the first thing you think is, what did I do wrong? This feeling of failure, that your own body is betraying you, is one of the heaviest burdens a person with diabetes carries. It's an invisible, isolating burden. What if I told you that maybe you didn't do anything wrong? That the blame might not be yours, but rather that of a friend disguised as an enemy in your medicine cabinet? There's a surprising biological reason why this happens, and understanding it is the first step to truly regaining control. Stay with me until the end, because I'll not only show you what these two vitamins are, but I'll also explain the mechanism behind their sabotage, and most importantly, give you the knowledge to turn these villains into allies. What we'll discover today will change the way you view your supplement routine forever. Let's start with what I call the well-intentioned aggressor. It's a vitamin many of you may be taking, not for diabetes itself, but for another condition that often goes hand in hand with it: high cholesterol. I'm talking about vitamin B3, better known as niacin. When a patient comes to my office with sky-high LDL cholesterol, the bad cholesterol, it's very common for a cardiologist, with the best of intentions, to prescribe high doses of niacin in its nicotinic acid form. And the results for cholesterol can be fantastic. The problem, the secret few people tell you, is what this same high dose of niacin does to your blood sugar. Imagine your liver as a large energy reserve for the body, a storehouse of glycogen, which is essentially a compacted form of glucose. In a person without diabetes, or with well-controlled diabetes, the pancreas releases insulin, which acts as a strict gatekeeper for this storehouse. Insulin says, "Liver, don't release sugar now. We have enough energy circulating in the blood." And the liver obeys. Now imagine niacin in high doses. It doesn't knock on the liver's door. It breaks it down. It acts like a false fire alarm, screaming to the liver, "Emergency! Release all the glucose you have stored, now." This process is called glycogenolysis. Niacin stimulates the liver to break down its glycogen stores and dump glucose into your bloodstream even when you don't need it. And what happens next? Your blood sugar levels spike. That's why you can wake up with that sky-high fasting blood glucose, even though you ate a salad the night before. It wasn't what you ate, it was your own liver being fooled by niacin. Studies show that doses of nicotinic acid above 1,000 or 1,500 milligrams per day, which are common for cholesterol treatment, can increase fasting blood glucose by 10%, 20%, or even more in people with predisposition. That's enough to turn controlled diabetes into uncontrolled diabetes. I remember a patient, Marcos, a brilliant man, an engineer, who treated his diabetes like a project. Spreadsheets, notes, military discipline, and yet he would arrive at my office desolate. "Doctor, I don't understand. My waking glucose is always a disaster." We reviewed everything: diet, physical activity, stress, sleep. Nothing. Until I asked about other medications. He mentioned, almost as an insignificant detail, the niacin the cardiologist had prescribed. It was like turning on a light in a dark room. We spoke with his cardiologist, explored other cholesterol options, and within weeks, Marcos's morning numbers were back under control. The relief on that man's face, the feeling that he wasn't failing, was one of the most gratifying things I've ever seen. He wasn't the problem. He was the victim of a biochemical reaction no one had explained to him. So what do? Throw away your niacin? Not necessarily. Knowledge empowers you. First, check which form of niacin you're using. The form that causes this most aggressive glucose spike is nicotinic acid. There's another form, called niacinamide or nicotinamide, which generally doesn't have the same effect on blood sugar. It's not as potent for cholesterol, but it's safer for diabetics. Second, dose is everything. Low doses, like those found in a common multivitamin, are usually not a problem. The danger lies in megadoses prescribed for therapeutic purposes. The solution is to talk. Talk to your prescribing doctor. Ask, "Doctor, could this dose of niacin be impacting my blood sugar? Is there an alternative we can consider?" Sometimes the solution may be closer monitoring, adjusting your diabetes medication, or switching to a different class of cholesterol medication. The important thing is that now you know what to ask. You've gone from being a passive passenger to becoming the co-pilot of your health. Understanding this frustration and knowing there's a logical explanation behind it is the first step toward change. If what I've said so far has already illuminated your path, given you a new piece to this puzzle, imagine what still lies ahead. To stay on track and continue unraveling these mysteries of your body with me, take this moment to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. This way, you'll ensure you don't miss any information that could literally transform your diabetes management. Now let's move on to the second vitamin, and this one is even more sneaky, because it doesn't necessarily actually disrupt your glucose levels, but it tricks your meter into believing yours is out of whack. This causes panic, anxiety, and, worst of all, can lead you to make bad decisions, like administering an unnecessary dose of insulin, which is extremely dangerous. I'm talking about good old vitamin C, ascorbic acid. We all love it. We take it for immunity, for our skin, as an antioxidant. It's in juices, effervescent tablets, and capsules. It's the symbol of health. How could something so good be a problem? The problem isn't your body, but technology. Think about your glucose meter. The small strip you insert into the device contains an enzyme. In most devices, this enzyme is glucose oxidase or glucose dehydrogenase. When the drop of your blood touches this enzyme, a chemical reaction occurs that generates a small electrical current. The device measures this electrical current and translates it into the number you see on the screen. The more glucose, the stronger the current, the higher the number. Simple, right? Now, high-dose vitamin C comes into play. Chemically, ascorbic acid structure is surprisingly similar to that of glucose, and when present in high concentrations in your blood, it can also react with the enzyme on the test strip. It generates its own electrical current. Your meter isn't smart enough to tell the difference. It can't tell, oh, this is glucose and this is vitamin C. It simply measures the total electrical current and assumes it's all glucose. The result? A falsely elevated reading. You might have a perfect blood sugar of 110, but if you just took a 1-gram vitamin C supplement, your meter might show 170, 190, or even over 200. This is more than an inconvenience, it's a real danger. I had a patient, Elena, a lovely lady who came to my office on the verge of tears. She was terrified of eating any carbohydrates for breakfast. "Doctor, no matter what I eat, even just one egg, 2 hours later my glucose is through the roof." She showed me her diary. The numbers were truly frightening. I began my detective work. I asked about absolutely everything in her morning routine, and then she mentioned, "And of course I take my effervescent vitamin C tablet with a glass of water so I don't catch the flu." Bingo. I asked her a simple experiment. "Tomorrow don't change anything in your diet, just skip the vitamin C. Check your glucose as usual." The next day, she called me, her voice choked with emotion. The number was 115. The joy and relief she felt were immense. For months, she lived in a state of anxiety and guilt, believing her body was out of control, when in fact, she was being tricked by chemical interference. This interference is more common with supplement doses, usually above 500 milligrams at a time. Vitamin C naturally found in foods, such as an orange or a bell pepper, rarely reaches the blood concentration necessary to cause this problem. The lesson here isn't to stop consuming vitamin C. The lesson is to be smarter about how you consume it and how you measure your glucose. First, whenever possible, prefer your vitamins from food sources. Your body knows exactly what to do with the vitamin C in a broccoli or a handful of strawberries. Second, if you need to supplement, avoid taking vitamin C close to the time you measure your glucose. Allow at least a 4-hour window if possible. Third, if you suspect this may be happening to you, take Elena's test. One day, measure with the vitamin. The next, under the same conditions, measure without the vitamin. Compare the results. Knowledge is power, and in this case, it can be the difference between panic and peace of mind. It's amazing how something that seems so harmless can have such a big impact, isn't it? I want to hear from you. Have you ever suspected that a supplement or vitamin might be affecting your glucose or meter readings? Leave your story in the comments below. Reading each other's experiences strengthens us, connects us, and teaches us that we are not alone in this journey. Now that we've unraveled the mysteries of niacin and vitamin C, let's delve a little deeper. Because true diabetes control doesn't come from simply avoiding two villains. It comes from understanding the logic behind your body's balance and how we can intelligently support it. The problems we've seen with niacin and vitamin C are actually symptoms of a larger problem, a fragmented approach to our health. We take one pill for cholesterol, another for immunity, another for blood sugar, and we rarely stop to consider whether all these substances are communicating harmoniously within our bodies. The truth is, our bodies aren't a collection of separate pieces. They're a symphony orchestra, where every nutrient, every hormone, every cell is a musician. If the violinist, niacin, decides to play a strident solo in the middle of a gentle passage, the whole music falls apart. Let's use the analogy of insulin sensitivity, which is the heart of the problem in type 2 diabetes. Imagine that every cell in your body has a small lock on its door. Insulin is the key that opens this lock and allows glucose, energy, to enter. In type 2 diabetes, this lock becomes rusty. The key, insulin, is there, sometimes in excess, but it has difficulty turning and opening the door. This is insulin resistance. Glucose can't enter the cell, so it accumulates outside in the bloodstream. What science has increasingly shown us is that certain nutrients act as a lubricating oil for this lock. They help remove the rust and make the insulin key work better. Two of the most powerful lubricants are magnesium and chromium. Magnesium is a master mineral. It participates in over 300 enzymatic reactions in the body, and one of the most important is insulin signaling. When magnesium levels are low, which is surprisingly common in the general population, and even more so in diabetics, the lock becomes even tighter. Studies published in journals such as Diabetes Care have repeatedly shown that magnesium supplementation can significantly improve insulin sensitivity and glycemic control. It's not a magic cure, but it's like giving your orchestra a more competent conductor. It helps coordinate the entry of sugar into cells more efficiently. Chromium, in turn, acts in a slightly different but complementary way. Think of it as a helper for the insulin key. It binds to insulin and enhances its action, making it easier for it to fit into the lock and open the cell door. It's like giving the key a better handle, allowing it to turn more firmly. Chromium deficiency, although rarer, has also been associated with poorer glucose control. The key here is synergy. Magnesium and chromium don't work in isolation, they work together. Having enough chromium without magnesium is like having a good helper but a jammed lock. Having enough magnesium without chromium is like having a lubricated lock but a key that doesn't fit properly. Beauty happens when they are present together in the right proportions. And here we return to our initial problem. You might even decide, after watching this video, okay, I'll take magnesium and chromium. But which magnesium? Magnesium oxide, which is the cheapest and most common, has very low absorption. Magnesium citrate is better. Bisglycinate is excellent but more expensive. What about chromium? Chromium picolinate? Chromium yeast? And what's the dose? If you take too little, it won't have any effect. If you overdo it, you could have other problems. The truth is, trying to piece together this puzzle alone is incredibly complex and, frankly, exhausting. It's like asking a patient to build their own car from spare parts. Is it possible? Maybe. Is it practical and safe? Hardly. We need solutions that understand this complexity and deliver the already tuned symphony, not just the separate instruments. Before we continue, it is my duty as a healthcare professional to add a note of caution. The information we are discussing is powerful and can transform your approach to diabetes. However, it does not replace the advice of your doctor. If you have any pre-existing conditions, especially kidney or liver problems, it is absolutely essential that you talk to your doctor before starting or changing any supplement regimen. Magnesium, for example, is filtered by the kidneys, and in cases of kidney failure, supplementation should be done with extreme caution. Similarly, if you already take diabetes medications, such as sulfonylureas or insulin itself, improving your insulin sensitivity may require adjusting your dosage to avoid episodes of hypoglycemia, which is a dangerous drop in blood sugar. Think of me as your educator, your guide, but your doctor, who knows your complete history, is the captain of your health team. Bring this conversation to them, use this knowledge to ask better questions, and make decisions together. This is the true partnership for lasting and safe health. We've traveled a complex path thus far. We've unmasked niacin as a potential blood sugar saboteur. We've revealed how vitamin C can trick your meter and create unnecessary panic. And we've begun to understand the importance of synergy, how nutrients like magnesium and chromium work together to lubricate the system and improve insulin sensitivity. We've talked about the correct dosages, the risks of incorrect doses, and interference with devices. I know, it's a lot of information, and perhaps now you're thinking, "Doctor, this all makes perfect sense, but it's complicated. How am I supposed to manage it all? How am I supposed to know which magnesium to buy, what the right dose of chromium is, how to combine it all without making a mistake like the one with niacin?" And that question is the smartest one you could ask. The truth is, managing diabetes in the modern world is like being the conductor of an incredibly complex orchestra while reading a constantly changing score. You need to ensure that vitamin B3 isn't fighting your liver, that vitamin C isn't confusing your systems, that magnesium is actually being absorbed to help with insulin sensitivity, that chromium is present at the right levels to support insulin, that you have antioxidants like alpha-lipoic acid to protect your nerves. Trying to buy each of these instruments separately in the most bioavailable form, at the exact dose, and ensure they play in harmony, is a recipe for frustration. It's exhausting, expensive, and the chance of getting one small detail wrong and throwing the whole symphony out of balance is enormous. You end up with a cabinet full of bottles and the same uncertainty as before. This is where intelligence and convenience must come together. An ideal solution to support diabetes management isn't a single magic vitamin. It's a thoughtful formula, a deliberate synergy. What would be the criteria for this ideal solution? First, it needs to contain essential nutrients in their purest, most bioavailable forms, such as magnesium bisglycinate rather than oxide. Second, doses need to be calibrated to the specific needs of those with diabetes, providing real support without creating the dangerous excesses we discussed with niacin. Third, and most importantly, it needs to combine these elements in a way that enhances the effect of each other, creating a result that is much greater and more balanced than the sum of its parts. It's the difference between a bunch of talented musicians making noise and a well-tuned orchestra playing a beautiful symphony. I've spent years studying these interactions, not just in books, but in the real world, in my practice, seeing what works and what doesn't for people like you. And I know that finding a product that meets all these criteria of quality, synergy, and safety can be a grueling journey full of pitfalls. That's why, to save you time and energy, and to provide you with a reliable path, I've done this research for you. I analyzed several options on the market, compared formulas, verified the quality of the ingredients, and found a protocol that follows exactly these principles we've just defined. So you don't have to rack your brains with dozens of bottles, I've left a link to this solution that I, as your doctor and guide, trust and recommend. It's here in the video description and also in the first pinned comment. Consider this a shortcut, a path I've already researched and validated, so you can focus on what really matters, living your life with greater peace of mind and confidence in your body. As we look back on our conversation today, what I really want you to feel is a sense of empowerment, the power that comes from knowledge. Diabetes, for too long, was treated as a sentence, a condition where you're a passive victim of the numbers on a screen. What we've tried to do here today is break that mindset. You're not a victim, you're the protagonist of your health story. By understanding that a vitamin like niacin can affect your liver, you gain the power to question. By understanding that vitamin C can interfere with your meter, you gain the power to investigate. By understanding that nutrients like magnesium and chromium work together, you gain the power to choose smarter, more integrated solutions. This journey isn't about perfection. There will be days when the numbers are higher. There will be days when you eat something you shouldn't. That's human nature. The difference is that now you no longer have to fall into the spiral of guilt and failure. Instead of asking, "What did I do wrong?" Component placement. You can start asking, "What's happening in my body and how can I better support it?" This shift in perspective is the greatest transformation you can experience. It's the shift from anxiety to curiosity, from fear to conscious action. Every piece of knowledge you acquire is a brick in the construction of your fortress of well-being. Remember Marcos, the engineer, and Elena, the panicked woman. Their lives changed not because of a miracle drug, but because of a single piece of information, a single piece of the puzzle that put everything else into perspective. The knowledge not only alleviated their physical symptoms, but healed a deep emotional wound, the feeling that they were failing. They weren't failing. They just didn't have the complete map. My goal on this channel is to give you that map, piece by piece, clearly, honestly, and empathetically. The final message I want to leave you with today is, you are in control. Knowledge is the most powerful tool you have against diabetes. Don't feel trapped by the numbers on your meter anymore. Understand what they mean, question them, learn from them, and use them to adjust your course. And if this video gave you a little more of that strength, that power, that clarity, then my mission today was successfully accomplished. To continue receiving this kind of guidance that strengthens you from the inside out, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and please share this video. Think of a friend, a family member, a colleague who is also on this journey. A simple share could be the information they needed to hear today. It could be the light that dispels confusion and guilt. It could change their day and, who knows, the health of someone you love. Thank you for trusting me and allowing me to be a part of your journey. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video.